Hey everyone, welcome to this demo. In this demo, I'm going to cover the new cloth stuff inside of Zbrush. I'm going to show a few different things, just some basic stuff first, and then we'll get into some cloth, and that'll be that. I won't be going completely in depth into every single setting that we've got here in the dynamics, because that would be a lot of time, and you probably would get bored anyways. So let's go ahead and get started. Just a quick disclaimer, you guys will need ZBrush at least 2021.5. I think point 0.6 is what you might have, but I'm not sure. But everybody, as long as you've got point 0.5, should work. So let's go ahead and here at ZBrush. Why am I getting a cut off? 1 second. Not sure why, but I'm going to scale this down. There we go. Now you should be able to see everything. Awesome. So first up, let's go ahead and we'll just make like a clothing, like a clothesline. So I'm going to go over here and go into our light box. Budget tool. Let's see what we got. We can just grab a tool over here. We'll just grab a cylinder, drag that out. Change this to matte cap gray. Drag that out. And now we've got a cylinder, make polymesh 3D. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to add some divisions here because we're going to make a kind of a long string. So one kind of caveat with with this dynamics is you do need a decent amount of topology. If you've tried to do this without a lot of topology, you're really going to be in trouble. So I just went ahead and clicked back on our cylinder to the initialize panel here, and I'm just going to raise these divisions up quite a bit, and then make poly 3D, and let's rotate it, scale it out. I'll just say that, and scale it in, and again, and again, and that should work for us. Great. So there's the clothing line. So now we just need a sheet or some kind of clothes. So let's go ahead and our subtool palette, append, and we'll grab a plane 3D. Click on it, and I'm going to go ahead and go down to display properties and turn on double just so we can see both sides of this. Hold down shift and then rotate it 90 degrees, bring it up, bring it out, and this way should work. And we'll go ahead and start with that. So the first thing I'm going to do is simulate the clothing line. So to do that, we'll grab our poly 3D, and I'm going to hide this other plane for now. And we want to mask the edges of this off because we don't want this thing to just fall. If you're used to in cloth, this would be like a constraint. So we're just going to mask the edges here, like so. And we'll go down to our masking. Just blur that out just a little bit. Set. And then if you don't have the dynamics palette over here, it's just up here. I just docked it. It's under dynamics. So these should be initialized like this for you. If it's not, you'll just have to go through and follow my settings. We're going to keep gravity on for now. We'll take it down to about 2. We don't want any collision volumes. And gravity, we do not want the floor on. If you have collision on, turn that off. And we'll just give it a shot, see what happens. And it's falling, 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 falling. So obviously our mask wasn't strong enough. So I'll mask these off again and run the simulation. There we go. Very cool. So this is a little bit droopy for a clothesline. So let's go up to our firmness. Let's just set that to 3 and run the simulation again. That's way better. And we'll just stop it there. Perfect. So now we've got a clothesline. And this is going to be our collision. And now we've got, go back to our plane. We've got to make sure that the clothesline is visible because this is how the collision volume is calculated. I'm going to scale our cloth down just a little bit here. Big. And I'm just going to bring it down, get it nice and close. I'm going to turn the floor off for now. And we'll take a look at the topology here. So this is definitely not enough resolution to simulate on. So let's go down to geometry, divide that up. Let's just try 3 times and see what we get. So now for collision, we want to make sure we have our collision volume clicked. And I just usually just hit recalculate. That's basically that recalculate means if you were to change your collision volume and then simulate, you want to make sure you recalculate it so the collision's correct. And we're just going to hit run simulation, see what happens. And it's pretty cool. It is a little slow, but you know, it's cloth dynamics inside of Zbrush. You can see we're getting some tearing here, and this is just because the clothesline density just is not enough. So let's go ahead and stop this and undo. And what I'm going to do first to try to get that to not pull is I'm just going to up these simulation iterations just a bit and see what we get. The firmness, I'm going to bring that back down because we don't want this to be a firm piece of cloth. Gravity's good. And let's try it again. There's a few things we can do if this one fails. It's probably the collision geometry, but we'll see what happens. It's either going to be the collision geometry. We don't have a high enough resolution mesh for the cloth. And this is just trial and error. I didn't pre-plan this or anything, so you're just seeing what I do as it happens. I think that clothing line might be a little bit too thin, but here's hoping maybe it'll go. And while that's simulating, we do have a bunch of new brushes now with ZBrush, these cloth brushes. And the cloth brushes basically take into account your simulation and your collision, which is really, really cool. It's very, very fun to play with. And this is getting there. Come on, almost. I think it's actually going to work pretty well. One thing you'll want to do if you're doing cloth like this is have self collision set to 1, just so these two pieces, the two back faces, will collide with each other. And that's enough for us to see. So we have a piece of cloth draped over a clothing line, which is great. It's exactly what we wanted. So you're going to see these little striations. I haven't used this enough to understand why this is happening, but it's very easily fixed. All you have to do is go down to deformation and to polish and just do a little polish, and it polishes it up. That might be a bit much. Let's try polish by features. There we go. So one of the cool brushes that we can use. So say you wanted you wanted a piece of cloth that looks like it's like blowing through the wind, right? So let's go up here, and you can see all of our new cloth brushes, and we do have a cloth wind right here. Let me grab my stylus, and we can kind of go crazy with this. And basically what you're doing as you press, this is the direction of the wind. Get a nice billowing cloth. And there are a lot of these new brushes inside of Zbrush that you can try. I'm not going to go through all of them. This is getting a little bit chunky, so I'm going to go ahead and subdivide this one more time. Like so, and you can see that gives us really nice wrinkles. There is a new smooth brush, so if we hit Shift and we go over here, click, and we can see there's a new smooth cloth. And this cloth basically just takes that collision volume, the collision into account when you smooth this. Just kind of smooth it out. Some other kind of cool brushes are these, the cloth hook, really strong. Yeah, some of these brushes, they get a little bit unpredictable sometimes. So you do have to mess around with it. But you can see you can get these really nice folds really quickly. And if your folds, like if these are just way too much detail for you, the best thing to do is go back down to a subdivision, and then you can just kind of gently tug this around to get some bigger folds. So basically bigger folds, lower resolution, more detail folds, higher resolution. So let's go in here, just fold this up a little bit. And now you can see as we go back through our subdivision, you can see those bigger folds. We'll just add some secondary ones and then go back up. And that's how you can build up detail in your folds. And again, we can just go back through with the smooth brush, just smooth some of this out. Like so. So really, really nice, very, very quick. So for any of you doing like environments that have tints or anything like that, really fast, easy way that you can do this. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to some close. So I'm going to load up a demo project here real quick. And I'll just start with this model. Some of these models can be a little bit challenging because the proportions can be a little bit exaggerated, but how we're going to do it, it'll be fine. So there's a couple different ways you can approach making clothes inside of ZBrush. We have the traditional mask method, which you guys are very familiar with using extraction, but there's a bit of a shortcut. And usually if I would make clothes using this method, it would be something that was very specific. So like a certain design, not like a generic dress or something, but like maybe like more of like a sci-fi suit. And because what we're going to do is basically generate a mask where we want cloth. So I am not a fashion designer, so do not judge my my costuming here. I'm just gonna see what I can come up with. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time because you guys can get creative with your cloth. I just want to show you some examples here. Maybe this is like a superhero like Marvel thing or something. I don't know. Now let me do something up here. All right, good enough. So we have this new tool. And let's see where it is under. Edge loop mask border. So let's hit that button. After we get rid of our subdivisions. Actually, you know what? I'm going to duplicate this off just in case. And I'm going to delete lower to get rid of our subdivisions and then edge loop mask border. So we get this really nice piece of geometry for free. So what I'm going to do is just grab the close and then do our old delete hidden. So now we've got this piece of geometry, but this is just really, really, really high res, and we don't want that. So we're just going to use our edge loop group loops. So I'm going to bring the loops down to 1 and just hit group loops. And that gave us that containing edge that Zbrush or ZRemesher loves. And I'm going to go ahead and go to ZRemesher and give it a shot, see what we get. And did a pretty good job. To make ZRemesher just gets better and better. So we can't see the back faces here. So we could display properties, hit double. So now we can see what we're dealing with. And honestly, this is good enough for now. Looks really nice, actually. So let's go ahead and turn our character back on. So now we've got clothes and our character on 2 different layers. So next thing up, I'm going to turn gravity off. And we're going to recalculate our collision volume. So I'm just going to collision volume, recalculate. I am going to push this inflate up just a bit. We'll say to like 0.5, see what we get. Because right now it's skin tight, right? We want this to lift off our skin a little bit. And I'm actually going to turn on this expand. And we're on the Z axis here. Actually, I'm going to expand it on all axes just to make sure. And let's just see what happens. There we go. And that's way too much expansion. So undo that. We'll just turn expand off, see what we get. Hello. All right, I guess we're turning expand back on. We'll just turn it down. That's not great. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's turn this way down as well. There we go, much better. And now we have cloth, which is ridiculously fast. You do get some of these artifacts in here, but again, polish is your friend. We'll go down here to deformation, polish, boom. So I just pretty much made an outfit in less than 3 or 4 minutes. Now, what's really cool about this is that this piece of cloth here works with the cloth brushes. So if I go ahead and we definitely want to divide this up, and I'll probably, you know what, let's resimulate just to see. Didn't think it was gonna, oh, there we go, great, it actually worked. So let's stop that, please don't crash. And let's polish that again. There we go. So when you get those interpenetrations that's happening, it's really cool. You just run simulation and it'll actually re-simulate it. So say we want to add some folds in here. Let's go ahead and again, I'm not totally familiar with the brushes yet, so we're just gonna see what we get, what happens. But as I start to push this, and obviously I've got to, I'm gonna have to low res this. It's just too slow on my computer. Let's go ahead and go back down to 2 and delete all that out. Oops, no, don't want to do that. Delete higher. So now we can go through and add some folds. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's actually interacting with the collision volume still. So you can create folds in your clothing and not have to worry about it going through the body, which is pretty astounding to me. So I'm just going to just throw some generic folds in here. And again, if you just wanted this to be skin tight, you could totally do it that way. Another cool thing that we can do is use the cloth pool brush to say for some reason I wanted to make this area down here actually pull in for some reason. Yeah, I'm going to turn symmetry off. That's definitely something to remember. You don't want cloth to be symmetrical when you're doing folds and details. Maybe we want it like pushing back in the wind. Something like that. And now when I go back to subdivide this, boink, we have these really beautiful folds, all for free. So that's kind of a way to do some custom design cloth. So if you wanted something a little bit more generic, like say we just want to put a dress on her, there's a really cool way to do that. So let's go ahead and delete this cloth for now. And we're going to use Spotlight. So I'm going to go to Light Box, Spotlight, and we have these clothing alphas now. So I'm just going to double click on this. And we get this big list of stuff. So let's see. I'm just going to use something kind of generic. Let's just try this dress down here. So if you hit Z, that's how you can get to the spotlight. So Shift Z brings spotlight up, Z activates it, deactivates it. So we have Z, and I'm going to grab this dress. I'm going to go ahead and just pull this over. And on this wheel here, we have scale. I definitely advise you to look into Spotlight. I'm not going to go through everything to do with Spotlight. It's a pretty cool tool, but it is very, very deep and in depth. So I'm just going to kind of place this around. And sometimes this thing can get a little squirrely. Let's just pull this over here so I can move it around easier. There we go. And it doesn't have to be exact. Then to hide, there we go. I'm going to push this. Let's scale it up. And don't worry about the scale too much, just as long as it fits the body, because we can always change it later. Scale it up a bit more. And just match it up to the body, and that looks good. So we're going to select this alpha, and this little camera right here says Snapshot 3D. So we're going to hit this, and if we hide our spotlight and then move around, we can see it gave us this block of geometry, which at first glance looks completely useless, but it's pretty awesome, and I'll show you why. So I'm just going to scale this up just to make sure it covers her whole body. Turn my poly frames on, and you can see it gave us these polygroups. So now I can just grab polygroups. Wait, not do that. You can see I grabbed those polygroups. Now it gave us those holes for the arms automatically, which is pretty cool. So I'm just going to delete those as before, like we always do, delete hidden. One thing you're going to want to do with this geometry, and I'm not sure why, but it doesn't create any edge loops in here, and this can really mess with our collision. So I'm just going to bring up the Z modeler brush with BZM, roll over an edge, and make sure we've got multiple edge loops. We'll do interactive resolution. Then I'm going to click an edge and then drag up. And that's just going to give me some subdivisions here. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to click once. Here, click once, and click once. And that should be all we really need to do for the prep for this. We'll see what happens. Sometimes I have to zero mesh this. We'll just give it a shot. So again, we have to recalculate that collision volume just to make sure. We'll turn plate completely off. We're going to expand off. We want to contract this on the z-axis because we want this to go this way and this way, so it sucks into our body. So we do a contract, do it on the z, and we'll just put that at 1. For now, self-collision's fine. All the rest of the stuff should be okay. Make sure gravity's off. We don't want to use that yet. And we'll just run the simulation, see what happens. All right, that's a bit slow. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to crank up the contract. See if it pushes it into the body a bit quicker. There we go. And all this is going to do is literally suck into that collision volume. Give it a minute here. This is kind of similar to what Marvelous Designer does. It's just a lot faster and it's a lot easier to set up, in my opinion. If you notice, we are getting some stepping around the edges here, and we're going to fix that next. So that's good enough. So we have beautiful folds, a really nice piece of cloth. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these poly groups. Just hit Control W. And to get rid of that edging that we're getting, we're going to use our handy group loops again. And since it's just all one group, it'll still hit those edges. So let's go edge loop, group loops down to 1, and hit group loops. And it just fixed it for us. We have a nice edge. And then we'll take that edge and then we're going to polish it. And now that we've got that edge as well, let's go ahead and just zero mesh it to make this a little bit less, a little bit more manageable. Hit zero mesh, let it do its thing. And this should give us some nice topology. That's not great, so let's try it again. Let's just increase this poly count just a little bit. I mean, technically this topology that's on here is just fine, but you guys know me in topology. All right, that's good enough for now. It doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical. You could sit here and mess around with the settings for quite some time. But now you can see we have this really nice piece of cloth. We still have those interpenetrations again, so let's go ahead and sim it. Go ahead and sim it with a little bit of inflate. Boom, perfect. And we'll do a polish. And we have a really nice form-fitting dress very, very, very quickly. Then you can easily take your cloth brushes back through this again and have a ton of fun. So that's cloth, which is really, really cool. And one last little tip that you may not be thinking that cloth would work for, but I saw a demo of this and it's really neat. So let me find a demo project that fits this. I'm gonna grab this fruit tree frog. So for this, say I want more wrinkles around his eyes. What we can do is with these cloth brushes. So let's use the cloth hook. This in conjunction with thick skin, which I'm going to have to find, which is right here. So thick skin is pretty new. I'm going to do a whole video on it for hard surface, but I just want you to see real quick. So basically what this does is it'll reduce the amount of influence this brush has on our guy here. So right now, you can see it's still way too much. So let's bring this up a little bit more. Actually, let's bring it down. There we go. So you can go in here and it's basically sliding the skin over the bone. And first, I'm just going to add some kind of big wrinkles in here. I should probably have symmetry turned on, but that's okay. Bring this in here and really add some wrinkles. And what's great is this is respecting the geometry, so it's not just destroying it. It's actually just accentuating the curves or the wrinkles. So I'm just kind of just dragging these around. So now when I go up to divide, you can see we've got these really nice organic wrinkles, and then I can go in and add a lot more here. You can see now it's kind of breaking, and there's a reason for that. I'll show you real quick. You can say it's simulation skipped mesh densities higher than specified max points. So your max points is down here. And we can see that I've got 1.4 million points. And our max simulation points is at 350, and that's times 1,000. So we need to bring this up. And we might not even be able to let's just say a max 1,000, see what happens. Nope. So we need to lower the subdivision back down again. Look at that. It's weird. Yeah, so I would have to be able to control this topology to figure out how to get that poly count up. So I'm going to divide this anyways. Go up here, delete lower. Let's see what we get. Yeah, it's gonna just crap out on me. We should be able to still actually let these brushes work. Yeah, they're still working. They're just working really, really strong. So again, we have our cloth smooth. So if you can tell, that's just smoothing out what the cloth brush is doing. It's still keeping our wrinkles in. So just something to try. It's a pretty interesting way of thinking about creating wrinkles for characters. Um, I think it's pretty cool. So something to think about when you're doing wrinkles in your characters is maybe give these cloth brushes a try with thick skin, because it does give you a really nice organic feel to it. If we go back to our beginning frog, you can see it does just add some light. It's kind of a better way than just trying to manually use gravity or something, or in the depth settings, just trying to get the brush to pull down. It's pretty organic. And that's that. Hopefully you guys learned something. Um, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you guys in the next class. Thanks.